grab these. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Susan Riederer.
And I'm Diane Hainsworth.
And we co-chair the auction committee with Helen Berkman. We are very excited to announce that the Spring Live auction is returning, and our theme this year is Here Comes the Sun. Aren't you ready for the return of the sun after a long, cold, lonely winter?
Our committee's primary goal is fundraising for the church, but also to offer a fun-filled evening of food, wine, music, silent and live auction, bidding and socializing, and all of which help to build community. We host the auction here at the church, so mark your calendars for the evening of Saturday, May the 6th. And we have an online auction website which allows you to bid on items starting in April. And this year, we have decided to hold several seats of our most popular events and special items for bidding the night of the auction.
And what are the three most important things for a successful auction? Donations.
Donations. Donations.
We are passing out a flyer with donation ideas for you to consider. So please donate and help us make this our best auction ever. Instructions on how to enter your donation into our online auction website are included on the back of the flyer that you received today, or we have a donation form available at our auction table that you can fill out.
And what's the next three things that make our auction a success?
Volunteers.
Volunteers. Please consider joining the fun. It's a short-term commitment, it's creative and fun. It's a great way to meet more people. And stop by the opportunities table in the back, and we'll be glad to talk about donation ideas and volunteer opportunities.
And with that, we would like to welcome you to our service this morning. First Unitarian Society of Denver is an urban sanctuary for growing souls in love and service. And for more than 150 years, we have been and continue to be a cornerstone of liberal religion and justice work in Denver.
Whoever you are, whoever you love, whether you carry joy or sorrow in your heart, you are welcome here. We're excited to share this time with you, and we're so glad that you've joined us either online or in person today.
Additional announcements can be found in our weekly First Announce email blast that comes out on Thursday evenings. Now please silence your phones so we may be more fully present with each other, and take a minute to turn and greet your neighbors.
And there is one more short announcement.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Whoever you are and wherever you are welcome here. Would you all please join me in singing our song of welcome? Particularly you are welcome if this is your first or second time here. We are glad you are all here. We are many, we are one. The light of the world is within you. Sacred and worthy is your soul. A place has been made for you. Welcome.
Morning, everyone. My name is John Reimers, and I'm a member of your Committee on Ministry, and hopefully you're aware that we're in the midst of doing our ministerial evaluation, and we really need your input. So I'd like to just, first of all, thank everyone who's responded to the survey, which incidentally is online in the first announce, and want to encourage those of you who have not had a chance to do that to please take a few minutes and fill it out. Your input is very important, and we really do have a shared ministry with Reverend Mike, and so we need your input, and just wanted to remind you. Thanks a lot.
Good morning. The call to worship today comes to us by Danny Bryak. I know. If you could go back in time, you would walk with Jesus. You would march with King. Maybe assassinate Hitler. At least you'd hide Jews in your basement. It would all be clear to you. But people then, just like you, were baffled and had bills to pay and children they didn't understand. And they too were so desperate for normalcy, they made anything normal, even turning everything inside out, even killing and killing. And it's easy for turning the other cheek to be looking the other way, and for walking to be talking. And they hid in their houses, and they watched it on television when they had television. And they wrung their hands, or didn't. And their hands were just like your hands, lined, permeable, small, and you would follow Caesar and quote McCarthy and Hoover, and you would want to make Germany great again because you are afraid and your parents are sick and your job pays nothing. And where's your dignity? Just a little dignity. And those kids sitting down the hallway and chaining themselves to buildings. What's their problem? And that kid, that king, and this is Selma, and Berlin, and Jerusalem. And now is when they need you to be brave. And now is when they need you to go back and forget everything that you know, and give up the things you're chained to, and make it look so easy in your grandkids' history books. They should still have them. And now is when it will all be clear to them.
There's one misprint in your printed order of service this morning. The prelude will be performed by Tom Poole and Hank Troy. It'll be The Waters of March by Antonio Carlos Jobim.
It is night, it is death, it's a trap, it's a gun. The oak when it blooms, the fox and the thrush, a knot in the wood, the song of a thrush, the wood of the wind, a cliff, a fall, a scratch, a lump. It is nothing at all. It's the wind blowing free, it's the end of the slope. It's the babe, it's a void, it's a hunch, it's a hope. And the riverbank talks of the waters of March. It's the end of the strain, it's the joy in your heart. flesh and the bone, the beat of the road, a slingshot stone, a fish, a flash, a silvery glow, a fight, a bet, the range of a bow, the bed of the wheel, the end of the line, the dismay in the face, it's a loss, it's a fine, a spear, a spike, a point, a nail, a drip, a drop, the end of the tale, a truckload of bricks in the soft morning light, the shot of a gun in the dead of the night, a mile, a must, a thrust, a bump. It's a girl, it's a rhyme, it's the cold, it's the mumps, the plan of the house, the body in bed, and the car that got stuck. It's the mud, it's the mud, a float of drift, a flight, a wing, a hawk, a quail, the promise of spring, and the riverbank talks of the waters of March. It's the promise of life, it's the joy in your heart. A snake, a stick, it is John and it's Joe. It's a thorn in your hand and a cut on your toe. A point, a grain, a bee, a bite, a blink, a buzzard, a sudden stroke of night, a pin, a needle, a sting, a pain, a snail, a riddle, a wasp, a stain, the pass in the mountains, a horse and a mule. In the distance of shells rode three shadows of blue, and the riverbank talks of the waters of March. It's the promise of life in your heart, in your heart. A stick, a stone, the end of the road, the rest of the stump, a lonesome road, a sliver of glass. It is life, the sun, a knife, a death, the end of the run, and the riverbank talks of the waters of March. It's the end of all strain, it's the joy in your heart.
Good morning, First Unitarian. Good morning. If you are a person who was ever born, you can come sit up here if you would like to. If you're young or young at heart, or you were born at one time, that would be cool if you wanted to come up. I'm going to tell a story, but I'm going to tell a story because in a way that I like to tell stories, which is with some audience participation. Awesome. All right, so the beginning of this story, it's on a beach. Close your eyes for just a second. Imagine a beautiful, calm, serene beach, wherever your beach is. That's fantastic. All right, but something that's prone to happen to beaches is an ocean storm. So here in a second, you will need to open your eyes because I'm going to help you make a storm. You can make a storm noise. You can stomp your feet. Not yet, wait. You can pat your hands on your legs. You can give us some snapping rain. If you're one that likes to be like full of hot air, you can give us some wind. That would be me. Or if you're just feeling particularly like crackly today, you can give me some lightning and thunder. Okay? But every good storm starts kind of chill and then rises and falls, right? So let's, so choose in your brain right now your storm sound. And all together, start a low, soft storm. Go ahead. Oh my gosh, it's getting a little bigger. A little bigger. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. go there. Oh my gosh, it's a raging torrent! Oh, and just like all good storms, it eventually fades out. Now, on this beach, there was a person walking. After this beautiful storm, they wanted to go out onto the beach and check it out and smell the beautiful rain on the beach. They're walking, and they come across something that is kind of sad. They find a whole part of the beach is covered by starfish. Starfish kind of look like this. This is from my ocean-themed bathroom at my house. Now, the thing about it is, the person who was walking, they notice that all these starfish are out because the storm that you guys just created, come on, threw all those starfish right onto the beach. And if you didn't know, starfish do need to be in the water to survive. So it's kind of sad because a lot of these starfish are not in the water and they might not survive, right? Why don't you pretend to be a starfish for just a second? A good way to do that, you can do this sitting if you want to, but you spread out all your limbs. We have 5 kind of points, just like a starfish. We have, I happen to have 5, right? One here, one here, one here, one here, and my head. So whatever points you got, give them a big stretch. You can stand if you need to. Try not to whack other starfish where you are. And take a deep breath, starfish. And sit back down right where you are. Now, the starfish on the beach, they need the water, right? And the person who was walking, they're just feeling really sad because they know that many of the starfish are probably not going to survive. They look over and they see another human being there, running as fast as they can, and they will take a starfish and they will gently toss it out into the ocean. And then they'll run, and then they'll gently toss it into the ocean. And then they'll run, and they'll take another starfish and gently toss. Try it with me really quick, right where you are. Run. And gently toss it to the ocean. Do one more. Run. Gently toss it into the ocean. And the person walking says, "You know what, other human being? What are you doing? There's too many starfish. There are just so many starfish sitting on the beach out here. There's no way that you can save them all. This doesn't matter." And the person who was gently throwing the starfish says, "It matters to this one." Right? Sometimes when something so big happens, like a big storm, it seems impossible to fix. There are too many starfish, right? But everything we do, each starfish we put back into the ocean, matters to that starfish a lot, right? We just keep swimming. We do the next right thing, no matter if it matters to all the starfish or one at a time. And I think that's sort of what we're talking about today in church. Thank you for joining me down here, people who were born. If we could sing out Our Young and Young Heart and join me in that. Thank you. To say, all of our classes are going to be upstairs in the chapel today because of a big storm that happened in our basement.
Would you please rise in body and or spirit and join me in singing out of our gray hymnal number 8, Mother Spirit, Father Spirit. The words will also be on the screens behind me. call you, what am I? Many drops are in the ocean deep and wide. Sunlight bounces off the ripples to the sky. What to give you, what to call you am I? I am empty, time flies from me, what is time? Dreams eternal, fears infernal, haunt my heart. What to give you, what to call you, oh my God. Mother Spirit, Father Spirit, take our hearts. Take our breath and let our voices sing our parts. Take our hands and let us work to shape art. I don't know why those words are so small. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Stu Ferguson, and I'm here for the stewardship update to kind of tell you why I belong to First Unitarian. I kind of fond of First Unitarian, attached, you might say, and it goes back 40 years is when I started coming, and for those of you who are younger than that, it's pre-pandemic time. When I first was here in Denver and started working, I was working 60-hour weeks, and I found First Unitarian a haven where I could kind of reaffirm the principles that I live by, because working for Denver Health, I found the wind was pretty strong, blowing a different direction. And I think that's one of the things that First Unitarian really provides for me. Is a place where I can come and feel that who I am and the principles I live by are reaffirmed. Unitarian has been at the forefront of many of the civil rights actions over the last 100 years, 120 years. And that includes things that have happened during my time, which were voting to be a sanctuary congregation and taking care of the homeless in our basement, joining the climate change movement, and doing things like changing the light bulbs and the small things like that. And that's really important to me, and I've participated in many of those things. In addition, the sermons that we have here are fabulous, and I think we have some of the best voices in the front range to come and sing for us, including today. And probably the most important thing is the community that I've found here. You guys are my peeps, and I hope that I can be one of your peeps. And that's been important during the hard times I've had. When I broke my hip or when I had an operation, I had lots of friends from here who were willing to help me out, both in terms of bringing food, but also in helping my spirit during hard times. When our son grew up here, he's 30 years old now, and I was always amused during coffee hour when he was after about the age of 5, I think, he would disappear into the crowd of coffee hour, and he just felt comfortable here, and that was really important. That was important. And then as part of that, as I've grown older and have been more deeply enmeshed in the congregation, I was willing to give back to this place and to this building both my time and my money. My time in being president of the congregation when we remodeled this place, which to be honest with you, wasn't very easy. Our minister went on sabbatical at the same time. And we had to spend a year in a very cold, dark auditorium. It was not easy. Anyway, it's done, and the result of it is fabulous. So I would encourage you to think about joining us, having us be your peeps, and contributing what you're able to be part of this community. Thank you.
And speaking of giving, good morning, First Unitarian. I'm Carol Ruckel, a member of the Giving in Action Committee. As you may know, on the first and third Sundays, we donate our plate collection to a nonprofit whose work and values mirror our own. Today, I am pleased to introduce Andrea Alcala, the Community Engagement Manager for Urban Peak. Their mission is to ignite the potential in youth to exit homelessness and create self-determined, fulfilled lives. Urban Peak's vision is that all Colorado youth have safe housing, supportive relationships, and the opportunity for self-sufficiency and success. Andrea.
Thank you, Carol, and good morning, everyone. I like to assess the audience and see, raise your hand if you have heard of Urban Peak before Carol spoke, or maybe you've fantastic. Okay, well, for those who don't know about Urban Peak, I'll just tell you a little bit about it. We're the only organization in the Denver metro area that provides the full continuum of services to youth experiencing homelessness. Youth, we refer people 15 to 24, and full continuum of services, we're referring to basically programs that meet youth where they're at, right? So we have street outreach for those youth who are experiencing homelessness out in the street. We have a day shelter where they can come in and do kind of cover their basic needs like laundry and meals and a shower, lockers. We also have an overnight shelter specifically for youth 15 to 20. And then we have what I like to highlight as our holistic approach. A program or programming that is called support services that includes education, employment, social emotional well-being, and medical services. And in a year, I should say, we are serving approximately 1,000 youth. And so everyone's journey is very different, and there are some kind of patterns and risk factors and barriers, but everyone's journey is different, so I wanted to share one specific story with you. This story is about James. James moved to Colorado from Jamaica, and there were a lot of culture shocks. Jamaica's very different from Colorado, starting with the weather, right? It's very cold out here. We celebrate different holidays. It's just first of all, we're not an island. We don't even have a coast. So let's just say that, right? It was very different for James. And she moved out here to live with her father, who she had only seen once when she was 6 years old. And this was after her father had left the family when she was even younger. And so she was coming out here looking for better opportunities than what she would get back home. But as she got older, as she became a teenager, she started becoming more rebellious, right? And struggled with the strict rules that in her dad's household. And so she left her home and moved in with a friend for a few days, who then referred her to Urban Peak, to our shelter. And James quickly connected with the staff at the shelter. They showed her that they cared, that they honored her own beliefs, and something she noted was they listened to me and got me help. And so when housing became available at one of our apartment sites called Rowan Apartments, James was overwhelmed, but also really excited to have her first own place. And she said, when you're finally not around so many people, it sinks in that this is your life, that you're actually an adult. So it's it's really powerful, to think as some of us who had this progression in going from having this network of support to then slowly independent living, this person had to go from like 0 to being completely alone. And so it just shows like the power of Urban Peak and like the family that we try to set up for them, that they can feel that they have that support even though like family may not be there. And so James then worked a lot finding jobs at Subway and Jimmy John's. And in October of 2020, her daughter Freya was born. And having a baby during the pandemic, I don't know if any of you experienced that, but it's hard, right? It's very isolating, but she said it was also empowering. She said, it's so crazy that I birthed a little human, but the best part of being a mom is the unconditional love. So it was so beautiful to hear that Freya was able to provide that support to James during this really difficult time. And, over time, James was able to find childcare for Freya, giving her time to start working again, to study for her GED. And Freya's father is involved, frequently watching after her. So right now, James is making plans to study cosmetology at Emily Griffith Technical College and become a licensed cosmetologist. She hopes to eventually open a nail salon and start a makeup line. So she says, I think about what's next for Freya and me every single day. And so at Urban Peak, James was able to find stability and support from her case managers from the day she arrived, having her baby during the pandemic, and she's now working towards self-sufficiency. So, in her story, it shows that for many youth, the acceptance and safety that they can experience at Urban Peak is a stark contrast to their past experiences. And, the Valley goes beyond just meeting those individual needs. And we're excited that she's beginning to build positive relationships, and she's continuing her path out of homelessness. So we really appreciate you all being part of the support. We appreciate you taking the time to hear the story, to celebrate, in this case, James and Freya's success, as well as the rest of our youth. And we look forward for a brighter future for our youth and who are experiencing homelessness across the metro area. And I hope you find the hope that we find every day at Urban Peak. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Andrea. As the baskets come around, I hope you will think about your safe home and the young people in our community who don't have one. As always, you can contribute online at our website, and that flashed up on the screens, fusden.org. Just make sure you go to the drop-down Giving in Action. And we'll be in the community room after church to chat. Thank you in advance for your generosity.
If I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can bring back beauty in a word or song, if I can show somebody he is traveling wrong, then my living shall not be in vain. Then my living shall not be in vain. Then my living shall not be in vain. If I can help somebody as I pass along, then my living shall not be in vain. If I can do my duty as a good man ought, if I can bring back beauty with a word or thought, if I can do my duty as the Master taught, then my living shall not be in vain. Then my living shall not be in vain. Then my living shall not be in vain. If I can help somebody as I pass along, then my living shall not, then my living shall not, then my living shall not be in vain.
Your contributions, thank you, Tom. Your contributions, freely given, are gratefully received. Thank you for your support of Urban Peak and the many other organizations that First Unitarian partners with in the larger community. I want to take just a moment and welcome Hank Troy back to our sanctuary. And I want to let you know about a transition that's happening at First Unitarian Denver, which is that Noelle Botti, she's here somewhere. Where'd she go? There. Oh, she went up to the religious education. Anyway, Noelle Botti has been chairing and directing our Connections ministry, I believe, for nearly about 10 years now. And she has decided to move on, to do something else. So I just want to thank Noelle for all of her work, and I know that the dozens of people she has helped feel comfortable here. She's just done an amazing job, and she tells me she's not going anywhere. She's just going to take on some different roles for the time being. So please thank Noelle when you see her. Also, I want to let you know, it's not in your order of service, but it is in the first announce that came out last Thursday, and it'll be in the next couple of first announces as well. I'm going to be doing a class here at First Unitarian Denver called Nature and Soul. We start on Thursday, the 23rd of March. There's no charge. We'll do about 5 sessions on Thursday nights. Probably my favorite material to teach, and I know a whole bunch of folks have taken that class and gotten a lot out of it. You're all invited. You just need to send me an email and let me know you're coming. A few joys and concerns of our larger community. Both the Kenworthy family and Leah Davis's family are both down with COVID this week. So that's why we don't have them here. Hopefully they will all get better, and Aaron and Leah will be back with us next week. I want to let you know that Tom Poole, who just sang for us, and Carol, who's sitting right next to him, have just welcomed a new grandchild into their lives. Laszlo Priori Poole was born last Monday. Laszlo Priori Poole. I want to let you know Sandy Parker has spent last night in the hospital. She has pneumonia. She will be going home today. I spoke with them this morning. And Donia Dodson, whom I told you, I think it was about a month ago, slipped on some ice and broke her femur and was doing really well until yesterday, maybe it was the day before, but she fell over on her walker and broke her sternum. Poor Donia. So that's just gotta hurt. So please keep Donia in your thoughts and prayers. She may be watching us from wherever she is at this moment. Donia, we love you. We're thinking of you. Much healing to you. Our prayer today was written by Aurora Levins Morales, and it's called Va'atva. Say these words when you lie down and when you rise up, when you go out and when you return, in times of mourning and in times of joy. Inscribe them on your doorposts, embroider them on your garments, tattoo them on your shoulders. Teach them to your children, your neighbors, your enemies. Recite them in your sleep. Here, in the cruel shadow of empire, another world is possible. Imagine winning. This is your sacred task. This is your power. Imagine every detail of winning, the exact smell of the summer streets in which no one has been shot. The muscles you have never unclenched from worry, gone soft as newborn skin. The sparkling taste of food when we know that no one on earth is hungry, that the beggars are fed, and the old man under the bridge, and the woman wrapping herself in thin sheets in the back of the car, and the children who suck on stones nest under a flock of roofs that keep multiplying their shelter. Lean with all your being toward that day when the poor of the world shake down a rain of good fortune out of the heavy clouds and justice rolls down like waters. Defend the world in which we win as if it were your child. It is your child. Defend it as if it were your lover. It is your lover. When you inhale and when you exhale, breathe the possibility of another world into the 37.2 trillion cells of your body until it shines with hope. And then imagine more. Imagine rape is unimaginable. Imagine war as a scarcely credible rumor. That the crimes of our age, the grotesque inhumanities of greed, the sheer and astounding shamelessness of it, the vast fortunes made by stealing lives, the horrible normalcy it came to have, is unimaginable to our heirs, the generations of the free. Don't waver. Don't let despair sink its sharp teeth into the throat with which you sing. Escalate your dreams. Make them burn so fiercely that you can follow them down any dark alleyway of history and not lose your way. Make them burn clear as a starry drinking gourd over the grim fog of exhaustion, and keep walking. Hold hands. Share water. Keep imagining so that we and the children of our children's children may live. Amen. Good morning. I want to invite you to honor your bodies, and if you want to, stand and stretch for a second. So, after all these years, I still take a perverse delight in oxymora, which is the plural of oxymoron. On the off chance that word oxymoron is not familiar to you, I quote, here's the definition: a figure of speech in which apparently contradictory terms appear in conjunction. There are thousands of these, like perverse delight, deafening silence, old news. We're getting there. Organized chaos, hurry up and wait, awfully good, good grief, icy hot, freezer burn, devout atheist. And of course, some old classics like jumbo shrimp, working vacation, negative income, civil war, functional democracy, and military intelligence, to name just a few. The word oxymoron is itself an oxymoron, a conjunction of the ancient Greek ox, meaning sharp, the same place we get the word axe, and mora, meaning moronic, stupid, or dull. Into this mix of oxymora, I have recently learned, is a new word, apocalyptimism. Apocalyptimism, the state of being an apocalyptimist. Now, in case the name itself isn't clear, the basic position of an apocalyptimist is someone who knows that we are rightly, truly screwed. Rightly, truly, and inevitably screwed. And still thinks that somehow everything's going to be okay. I would argue that even without that word, apocalyptimism is the basic default position of nearly all of us anyway. What I mean by that, and by us, I mean like us here at First Unitarian Denver. What I mean by that is that we here at First Unitarian Denver, we tend to appreciate science. We believe in evidence. And we are fairly well informed. We are aware that all the evidence, and I mean all the evidence, shows that we are collectively rushing headlong into a global environmental catastrophe. We know this. And for the most part, we go about our days, heating our homes, driving our cars, taking hot showers, eating meat, most of us, flying on airplanes, and so on, such that any outside observer, given the evidence of how most of us live, could only conclude one of three things. One, we are unaware of the impending catastrophe. Two, we are aware of the impending catastrophe and we just selfishly don't care. Or three, we are apocalyptimists. Since we know the first one's not true, and the second one is unthinkable, we must fit the third and last option. We are all Apocaloptimists to one degree or another. I think, though, that there is one other possibility, which is just flat-out denial of reality. This was the official stance of the Republican Party not very long ago. We'll come back to denial in a few minutes. So it is interesting, if not particularly encouraging, to remember that history has exactly 0 examples of civilizations that have not fallen. 0. People study this phenomena. There's even a whole field of academic study now called collapsology, showing that the particulars differ, but the stages of how civilizations rise and then fall fit and follow quite identifiable patterns. American capitalism, collapsologists say, is in the middle of its decline period. Not yet in the end stages, but well past its peak. And they measure this in a number of pretty compelling ways, one of which is the physics of energy consumption. Turns out civilizations of all kinds, on all continents throughout history, have a consistent pattern of overshooting their capacity to generate the energy needed to maintain complexity. And this is true from the ancient Assyrians to the Chinese dynasties to the person who cut down the last tree on Easter Island. This was true for the Third Reich of the 1940s, and it's true for modern American capitalism. When your level of complexity overshoots your capacity to generate the energy to sustain it, you have passed your peak, and decline is a mathematical certainty. If we made an analogy to a human lifespan, this is what collapsologists do, they say that American capitalism is the equivalent of about a 70-year-old body, which is to say there's still quite a bit of life left. There will be good days and bad days, but the joints ache. We don't hear, see, or think nearly as well as we used to, and there is no cure for the basic truth of aging and eventual death. Michael Dowd observes, of course we're in decline. The whole model of Western civilization is to take energy and material from the earth and turn it into pollution as quickly and as efficiently as possible. And when in doubt, to accelerate the transformation rather than try and put the brakes on. And it doesn't matter whether you call that denial, progress, or insanity, the result is the same. It is unsustainable. It has no future. Also, interestingly, I'm no longer quoting Michael Dowd here. Interestingly, we are apparently the only historical empire, at least that we know of, that is in decline, that has two things that others didn't. We know we're in decline, and we have lots of scientific evidence to prove it. And we should also consider, I think, what Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker wrote a few years ago. And here I'll quote her. We are living in a post-slavery, post-Holocaust, post-Vietnam, post-Hiroshima world. We are living in the aftermath of collective violence that has been severe, massive, and traumatic. The scars from slavery, genocide, and a meaningless war mark our bodies. We are living in the midst of rainforest burning, the rapid death of species, the growing pollution of air and water, and new mutations of racism and violence. The traditional response of the liberal religious tradition is to place our hope in the future. Our apocalyptic myth imagines that the present world will come to an end and a new age will dawn. The liberal apocalyptic vision tends to skip a little lightly over the violent parts of that transition. It sees change coming through an evolutionary process, the gradual dismantling of evil empires, and the eventual unfolding of life into greater forms of beauty and justice. End quote. I don't think that vision is as true as it used to be. Which is to say, when I was growing up, that's the myth I remember growing up with. That's the myth I remember being preached at my Unitarian Universalist church. But I don't know that I don't know very many people anymore who still believe all that after all this time. After all this war, after all these deep social and spiritual wounds. I don't know too many people who still really believe that someday, some way, somehow the world is going to, kind of wake up and start making nice. Don't get me wrong. Please, I am not trying to suggest cynicism or despair. But I am suggesting that the spiritual vision, the spiritual underlying assumption of kind of working to hold off the apocalypse while waiting for the gradual enlightenment of our fellow human beings, be replaced by something a little more grounded in reality. What if we shift our perspective? What if we shift our perspective from one of waiting for the apocalypse to a different assumption, to the assumption that for all practical purposes, the apocalypse has already come. It's already happened. And we are living in the ruins. There are nearly 70 million refugees in the world right this moment who might argue that we are living in the apocalypse right now. It's not sometime far off in the future. One of the things this would mean, think about it, is that I have wonderful news for all of you who are haunted by cynicism and despair. You can let it go. You can just let it go. All of it. Think of it. You no longer need to feel woe and sad for the approaching catastrophe. It already happened. All your fears were realized. And now you can look at your own cynicism as just another part of the damage that was done. You are completely free to know you are right. And you're still here. So now we need to work on healing instead of worrying. It would mean that all of you who are fraught with anxiety about the coming catastrophe, you can let go of that anxiety. It was all true, completely justified. It happened, and you're still here too. And now we have to pick up the pieces. Here in the aftermath, we can admit we are not all wise. Our knowledge has not saved us, and we are not innocent. What a relief. What a spiritual unburdening to let go of all that. And think about it, if our religious task is not to worry, fret, or work feverishly to keep this crazy train on the tracks, we can legitimately wonder if the whole smoking, belching locomotive is the best way to get where we think we want to go. There are real benefits to seeing the world this way. A couple more things I want to suggest. And I want to thank Reverend Michael Dowd for helping to clarify some of my own thinking here. We're talking about this in church. Because I believe all of this is a profoundly spiritual issue that has largely grown out of some terrible and profoundly misguided theology. Shalon Harkin wrote a poem that points to where I want to go. She said, "The worst thing we ever did was put God in the sky out of reach, pulling the divinity from the leaf, sifting the holy from our bones, insisting God isn't bursting dazzlement through everything we've made a hard commitment to see as ordinary, stripping the sacred from everywhere to put a cloud man elsewhere, prying closeness from our heart. The worst thing we ever did was take the dance and the song out of prayer, make it sit up straight and cross its legs, removed it of rejoicing, wiped clean its hip sway, its questions, its ecstatic yowl, its tears. The worst thing we ever did is pretend God isn't the easiest thing in this universe, available to every soul in every breath." I think religion, when it's at its best, helps us to live in a right relationship to reality, to our best and most truthful understanding of the universe. This is how we live lives of wholeness and meaning and purpose and clarity. Salvation in this life. And by the way, I appreciate the definition of reality that Philip K. Dick uses. Reality is that which, when you stop believing in it, it doesn't go away. Religion, when it's doing its job, helps us to live in right relationship to reality. Turns out we know a few things about reality for life on earth. We know that death is necessary. It's part of the package. It's just in the hand we're dealt. We know that death comes for everything, even civilizations. Without death, there is no evolution. Without death, there's no room for new things to be born. Without the death of stars, there would be no planets, no us. Without the death of mountains, there would be no healthy soil. On and on and on. The things that appear catastrophic in the moment are usually just the next step on the way to something or someplace else. That's how the universe works. In one sense, the death of modern capitalism might be the best thing that could ever happen to the earth. We would do a lot less damage. Some more reality, right? In addition to death, reality teaches us there are other limits. Like living things, all of them, us and our ancestors included, evolved in ecosystems characterized by balance and symbiosis. Everything in nature has limits, physical, empirical, measurable, like hard stop limits. There are limits to energy, to sunlight, to soil, to lifespans, and on and on. Every forest, every island, every continent, every ocean, every planet, every babbling brook has physical, empirical, measurable limits to what it can produce, withstand, or accomplish. You cannot keep taking coal, oil, and natural gas out of the ground indefinitely, spewing out waste products and pollution. You can't do it. The supply will run out. Pollution will reduce livability. You will overshoot carrying capacity, and you will die. And you will take a whole pot of things with you when you go. The great flaw in nearly all economics, politics, and religion is the delusion of limitlessness. I'm going to repeat that. The great flaw in nearly all economics, politics, and religion is the delusion of limitlessness. A delusion, of course, is one of the antonyms of reality. Religion, at its best, helps us live in right relationship to reality. And to survive, we need a theology grounded in reality, not in the sky. A theology that puts ecology and earth and life at the core and center of everything worthy of protecting, worthy of honoring, worthy of worshiping. Anything less is a denial of reality, and future generations, if there are any, will condemn us for it, and rightly so. Amen? I would even suggest that living in right relationship to reality is a fine, wonderful, truthful definition of wisdom. And I'm going to close with this thought. Richard Sims wrote a small list of why he is an apocalyptimist. 1, there are 7 of them. 1, I tried being miserable, expecting the worst about big world problems, but it just made me more miserable. 2, it made everyone around me miserable too. 3, to ignore the facts would also mean never considering answers big enough for the size of the problems. Not even looking to see if they exist. It stifled my imagination. 4, contemplating pointlessness gives me a headache. 5, being positive, even though fully aware, feels realistic, open, and an important acknowledgement that I am fortunate enough just to be able to act. 6, it gets me out of bed in the morning to make a cup of tea, and I like tea. And 7, I can't think of a better way to be alive in the world than the privilege of trying to solve some of the great challenges of our time. Amen.
Would you please rise in body and spirit and join me in singing out of the Teal hymnal, number 1064, Blue Boat Home. The words will be on the screen behind me, hopefully at a manageable size. Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep. are drifting here with my ship's companions. All we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the light of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me. Hail the great winds urging me on. Greet the infinite sea before me. Sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms. Never harbor nor port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Please join me in singing our closing affirmation. Behind all our differences and beneath our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together throughout all time, through life and death, and the space between the stars, throughout all time, through life and death, and the space between the stars.
In a round world, what goes around comes around. Circles and cycles of stars, seasons of growth and decay, birth and death, and unexpected resurrection. You and I and we are inextricably connected to all that is and was and ever will be. Our service is ended. Go in peace.
Feeling good.